Hi, and welcome back to another Kubernetes video. In this video, I will review how to properly vacate or drain a node during the update of a Kubernetes cluster. In my last video, I tried to drain a node and got error messages. Some of those error messages indicated that I needed to add an additional flag in order to properly vacate or drain those nodes. I ignored those error messages or hints and updated the cluster anyways, which caused my database to crash and I had to manually restore those pods. During the upgrade of my cluster from version 129 to 130, I read those error messages and hints more carefully and identified a way to drain the nodes and not have to restore the database at the end. In this video, I will focus on the upgrade of a worker node, properly draining that worker node during the upgrade process, to ensure that there is no issue with a stateful set database cluster. Let's now get right into it by switching over to our terminals. I will have three terminal windows open. The one on the top right is going to be our watch. We will watch what happens if we cordon or drain a node, and then what happens if once we are done with our upgrade and bring this cluster or this worker back into the cluster. The one on the bottom is for executing any command from the master and instructing the worker to execute the drain command. And last but not least, on the left hand side, you will see the updates that I'm going to make on the node worker 1. First things first, let's find out on which node we have the database cluster running. We can do that with kubectl get all-n database -o wide. The database clusters are running on worker 2, worker 3, and worker 1. Cluster 0, or the first pod, is running on worker 2. The second pod is running on worker 3, and the last pod is running on worker 1. With that out of the way, we're going to empty our screen. I'm going to already activate the watch command, watch kubectl get all-n database. And with that out of the way, I'm going to start upgrading my worker 1. And I'm going to follow the process that I highlighted in my previous video. I'm going to start with sudo vim etc apt sources.list.d kubernetes.list, and I'm going to update the database, not the database, the repository from 30 to 31. Right, and quit. Sudo apt update. Again, 5 packages. And now sudo apt-mark unhold kubeadm, which is the first component we're going to start with. Sudo apt-cache madison kubeadm. The version we're going to upgrade to is 131.4. Sudo apt install kubeadm in the version 131.4. Sudo apt-mark hold kubeadm. So that update is complete. Now what I have to do is to sudo kubeadm upgrade node. As this is not a worker, this is not a master node or a control plane as it's called, there is no further work we have to do on this piece, and we can now start on upgrading the other packages. Before we do that, however, that's where I'm now going to execute the drain command kubectl drain k8s worker1 and ignore daemon-sets. As this will not work, I'm getting the hint that if I add this additional flag, I will be able to drain this node completely. That's what I ignored last time, but this time we're going to set delete-emptydir-data. And now please watch on the top and see what happens once this node is drained. Delete empty. Empty dir is spelled wrong. Okay. Empty dir data. Now you can see that the node is going to be evicted. My pod 3 of my database is terminated. That's the regular behavior that you want to see, and all other components will be also evicted. With that done, I can now continue my upgrade by adding sudo apt-mark unhold kubelet and kubectl. As you can see, my Galera cluster 2 is still pending, which means it will not get reestablished. I'm going to unmark the hold now on the kubelet and kubectl package. Sudo apt install kubelet in the version 131.4 and the kubectl package in its version 131.4 as well. As those two packages are being upgraded, I'm going to wait for that execution. The packages are upgraded, so we're going to set the hold again. Sudo apt-mark hold kubelet and kubectl. They are set to hold. Now we're going to sudo systemctl systemctl daemon-reload, and we're going to systemctl restart kubelet. With that done, we can now uncordon this node again. kubectl uncordon k8s worker1, and you will see that the container is now creating. The node is back in service and will now accept containers again, and we should see without a problem the restart of the second node of the cluster. All other nodes of this database cluster will restart in a similar way and a similar fashion, and you should not experience any issues with an upgrade of a cluster, and every service that you have should be restored as it was before the upgrade. We'll let it finish, and then we can talk more about this process. And the last part of the database cluster is back up and running, which means that all the synchronization between those pods has been executed as well. And we are back up and running with this particular node. I can now verify that we have upgraded this node successfully with kubectl get nodes, and I should see the 131.4. The upgrade of my worker 1 already concludes this video as well. I wanted to just highlight that there is a way to drain the nodes properly without having the database or any of your pods to fail. As you just saw, I was able to drain the node successfully, upgrade the worker to its latest version that I wanted to go to, which in this case was version 1.31.4, and once uncordoned, the container started back up, synchronized its database, and is ready to accept connections and commands again. The biggest learning for me in this upgrade process was to read all the outputs in detail and make sure to follow the instructions that's being provided during those upgrade sessions. They are very helpful and will prevent additional failures and troubleshooting steps that you might not have to do. I will now finish the upgrade of the other nodes and make sure that all my pods are still up and running. With that, thank you so much for watching. I will see you in the next video.